Hello, my beautiful soul family. So this is echoing here. I hope it's not echoey for you. This video has got to do with what has healing trauma got to do with success in business. Because for those of you that don't know, I'm a business strategist and coach and mentor, and I'm also a healer. I help people heal, especially through transitions, like through expansions, ascensions, growing their business, going out in a bigger way in their business and brand. But also, like, I do work with anyone who is needing a transformation. So trauma, let's understand what trauma is, because it's misunderstood. I know, right, that trauma does not have to be some big event in your life, although often it can be. Trauma is also like significant events that cause our subconscious to make a sort of energetic decision. It kind of puts us in a lockdown, in a kind of energetic lock. So trauma can be anything that your subconscious has locked into and made a decision that it won't do something, or, you know, it's made a strong decision. It's kind of locked something in that may not be in your best interest, and also may be keeping you in repeat patterns and cycles. Trauma is also carried down genetically. This has been proven that, like, it's not just our features that get carried down from our parents and ancestors, like how we look. It's also trauma. It's our consciousness, right? So so our lineage is relevant here. So clearing trauma unlocks something in us. It unlocks the energetic blocks and the karmic cycles and the unhealthy patterns, so that we're free to get the life we want. When I remove trauma, what tends to happen without much effort or any effort is things start flowing in people's lives. And I'm about full self-expression, right? And it's mostly trauma that stops us being fully expressed. If you think about little kids in the playground, right, before they get socialized, they're normally like, everything they do is like, mummy, mummy, look at me, look at what I can do. And then we learn to get shy. Then we learn not to show off. Then we learn not to boast. Then we learn certain things about how it's acceptable for us to behave, right? And I would still call that a trauma response. So on a more significant level, a trauma response is the ones you may have heard of, and they are fight, freeze, fawn, or flight. So fight is, I'm triggered and I want to argue with you. Freeze is, you know, just think about this, like where you do this in your daily life. Freeze, the trauma response of freeze is something happens and you freeze up. You can't speak, you can't deal with it, you go into overwhelm. Fawn is the people pleaser. Hello, my love. Hi, Melissa. Fawn is the people pleaser. The trauma response of fawn is, I need you to like me, right? So we would have felt unsafe at some point in our life. Our subconscious decides that, okay, the thing to do, even if someone's crossing your boundaries, is to fawn them, is to be really nice, right? I need you to like me. And flight is, get me the fuck out of here. I've done that before. I've literally burnt things to the ground. I've had a trauma response, and I have made a decision that was emotionally charged, but really fueled from my trauma. Was it the right thing to get the fuck out of those situations? Probably, but could I have done it in a better way if I wasn't as triggered? Definitely. So emotional intelligence is so important for us as entrepreneurs, not only to be able to become more visible, more fully expressed, more powerful, but also to protect and be okay with our own mental health, right? Because stress is very difficult for us. Trauma triggers all that stuff. We're not going to fulfill our potential if we are not able to have the emotional intelligence to navigate through things. And what goes wrong sometimes is, by the way, look at my top, Melissa. This is like the trauma education video, but I've got my wings on today. This top is all like, it's not as puffy as it looks on this video, but we can all fly is what I'm going to teach you. But sometimes people don't understand trauma. They're trying to resolve something in their heads, right, that is actually a body energy response. So my sessions in trauma are unbelievable, but I'm working on many levels. It's a bit like a mixture between having a channeled psychic reading with someone who's putting you in hypnosis, but I don't technically hypnotize you, and some kind of like theta Reiki healing. I combine that kind of energetic with your conscious mind. And You can't deal with trauma in your head. One of the biggest issues when we've got a trauma, and you'll know this if you keep mulling over the same event, you keep thinking about it, your mind goes into a loop, or you go to do something new and your mind keeps throwing up the past and you can't get beyond it, right? Because you can't heal trauma in the mind. So when people go to therapy and they're very traumatized, it's often just keeping them in the same loop. They're not breaking through often, not always. There are great people on the planet, but like, this is why. Because it's not understood. We don't understand trauma in our society. And we also think, unless you've had some big accident or something that we call significant, that we're not traumatized. But I promise you, any time your subconscious has made any strong energetic decision that is preventing you from reaching your full potential, it's a trauma response. And until it's released, you can't attract the things you want. Yesterday I did a session and the lady, we only had one before, she's telling me about how people that are now magnetic to, like things were happening in her life that had never happened before, and she couldn't work out why, because she's trying to put in intellectual strategies that didn't work. And so what I loved, actually, if you see, Melissa did her video yesterday about one of the trauma release sessions we had, and we've only had 2. And what she said that I loved so much, because she's got certain things, a lot of the people that I work with, some of them anyway, feel trapped. They need a big shift. They need a quantum leap, right? And I'm the queen of this shit. So but what she said was, Ellie, you helped me bloom now. I started blooming where I was. I didn't need my health to get better. I didn't need my finances to change immediately. I didn't need the conditions to change or manipulate. Suddenly, I started to bloom. And that's what's available when we heal trauma. You suddenly start to bloom where you are. You start connecting. Now, if you're very traumatized, we get very stuck in the past. So sometimes the initial session I'll do with people is to release the heavier stuff there. Because when we're very traumatized, we can't get past the past, right? So it's very difficult for us to connect with the person we're becoming. But as soon as I release the trauma, we start connecting with the person we're becoming. When we're very traumatized, we don't believe in our future. We don't think we have a future, and certainly not a positive one. So we get subconsciously obsessed with protecting ourselves for things in the past not happening again and what else might go wrong, right? When we release that trauma, we can connect to the vision for our future better and our potential. It sets everything free in the world. People have worked with me and said, I've worked with coaches, psychiatrists, all of it, nothing shifted it, you have, and now there's beauty in my life for the first time. And I do this so fast, like one session, people open up like that. So the reason I do is because I channel it and I've got certain modalities. The other reason why I'm so good at trauma release is because I went through a ton of it, right? So I didn't know what was wrong with me for a long time in my life. I thought I had anxiety. But I was still very brave, and I looked on the outside very successful, which I was, right? But then I remember when I set my first business up in, I think it was 2012. By 2013, I'd started doing very well in that business. And I got on the front cover of magazines, right? And that should have been a great celebration. But I remember going back to my apartment and I was looking at this picture and it was my face on the front cover of a magazine, and I was having the worst anxiety, right? And this didn't just go on for a minute. This panic and anxiety that I couldn't work out what was wrong with me went on for months. I started changing my business because I didn't want to be in business meetings. I was having a complete identity crisis. The reason being, I grew up in I was bullied quite heavily as a child by my in my environment. So I was bright, I was successful, but I'd allowed certain success in, but now I couldn't cope with this. It was just, I'd reached an upper limit of what I could accept because there was subconscious trauma, but I didn't know that at the time. So I started questioning, well, maybe I'm just anxious, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. I didn't understand that it was just trauma. Most of these mental illnesses come from trauma. Most addictions come from trauma. I teach my clients all the time, and what I'm finding even more is when we heal, right? When I heal people, I don't try and stop you doing the addiction. I teach you how to come into yourself, so you're not trying to control everything. And then what happens is they start doing things naturally. The addictions fall away. the unhealthy eating falls away. The healthier habits are a natural extension of the work we do without me trying to force you and push you. And you know what I mean? So the work I do is amazing for this. And the last thing I do, because I know when I've done the stuff we do, these things just become not part of your identity anymore, right? But I'm telling you, the reason I'm so good at it, one is because I'm a great channel, and yes, I've got healing abilities and I have got gifts. Two is because I walked through a ton of trauma in my life. What I later came to realize was this PTSD, right? And I'm not one for managing symptoms. I'm not one. I healed my body of a kidney disease at 15, but the mental illnesses, the mental things I was going through, no one knew about that. Yeah, no one knew about that. And I looked highly functioning on the outside, and that's what's quite difficult. But as entrepreneurs, there's a lot of mental strain on us, right? So my stuff wasn't, I wasn't, you know, I was carrying heavy stuff while I was going for my career. And what really held me back was when I got really well known. I was on the radios and people were posting about me, and I was on front cover magazines, and I couldn't cope with it. I couldn't cope with it. I shut the whole fucking thing down. I've done that twice in my life because I hadn't healed my trauma, right? So I had to heal this in myself to be visible. And it's not to say I didn't do things. I did. I used to travel the world, go make business meetings, all sorts of things. But like this PTSD, I didn't understand. And then in the last 5 years, I've been an expert at it, like in terms of healing it in other people, understanding it on the planet, understanding it in myself. Like I sat with veterans and understood, like veterans, the amount of PTSD to really get to the bottom of this. And I heal it very fast with people. But like, even if you haven't got PTSD, what I'm saying is when you want to express yourself more, when you want to make money for being yourself, when you want to go out there and, you know, monetize your passions, live your dreams, all that stuff, it takes courage, it takes confidence, it takes self-expression, it takes releasing the traumas. Because once I release the traumas, you automatically do this, right? But we're not aware of the traumas we hold. We think we're shy, or we think it's our personality, or we tell ourselves so many stories about why things aren't working, but most of the time it's the trauma underneath it. You know, oh, it's just I did the wrong strategy. We're intellectualizing things that are energetic, and I'm really good at helping you work with that. So the other thing with any kind of challenge we've had, I believe we've all got individual gifts. I believe some of us have bigger struggles because we're here to use them. If we can use them, because they can make us excellent at things. You know, the things that were my biggest obstacles have made me so good. Yeah. Did I like some of the things? I mean, I'm telling you, I've been to dark places in my life. That's why I'm brilliant with people. I don't take you there. People in my world, like Miss yesterday, she's like, I just feel good. Like, I make it light. Another lady I worked with last week said, I love that healing can be fun. I've never laughed so much and had my energy shifted at the same time. I've got a very unique approach. But the way I've mastered this is, yes, my unique gifts, but two, because I've walked it. I've been in those dark places. I've been in them several times in my life, over and over again. I know what it feels like. So it's not, you know, I'm not just intellectually knowing this stuff. I've had to dig myself out of some holes very fast and transition them, evolve past them, ascend into them. Someone just telling you to come into love isn't going to work, right? But what I take you through is a different elevation of your consciousness. I know how I rapidly get people out of this, but it's energetic work. It's not, I can literally, because I learned a lot, so I can kind of like give you my awareness, if that makes sense. I can do that with you. So one other thing on this is not being ruled by our shame, because we miss the power of it. When we're ruled by our shame, it holds us back. So a lot of the trauma is stuff we hide in the shadows that we somehow think makes us defective, not powerful. I mean, when I was going through all those anxiety attacks, I remember someone tried to shame me in my family because I told them what I was going through. And he'd said, like, you know, oh, you're just a bit crazy then, aren't you? Because, I mean, at the time I was doing big stuff. I was a young woman. I was successful. I was talking in front of a lot of people. And, you know, I was building a number of companies. This wasn't like, you know, that was quite a lot of stress, right? But at the same time, he tried to make me feel ashamed because I said I actually opened up about the anxiety. And I thought, gosh, you've got no idea. You have no idea how strong I am. Because for the person who isn't suffering from anxiety, to get up and do what I'm doing might not feel so big. But for me, it's moving a mountain every day. You know what I mean? And I just started understanding, like, if you've got things that are really hard for you to do and you're still showing up, right? You're the warrior. You've got more courage. You've got more bravery than most people. A lot of people don't have those heavy things and it's still scary for them. So we get given these things to strengthen us. There is an amazing gift on the other side of these things. But if we stay ashamed of stuff, it lives in the shadows and it limits us and it actually contracts us and keeps us small. So there's no... there's no connection in shame as well. You know, sharing what we do is easy to people. Sharing who we are is where the connection is and what's most scary. It's so easy for me to tell you all the awards I've won, all the things I've done, blah, blah, blah. That's easy. Yeah. But when I share with you my heart and soul, when I share with you who I am, that's the connection. But that's where I've got to lose my shame. Because if I'm too ashamed of that, it's going to hold me back. But if I don't share it, you're never going to know me. And some people won't like me because of it. There's no doubt about it. But the people that don't like me can fall away. And the people that do like me will feel like, oh my God, I've come home. Because there's someone that I can relate to, you see. So you've got to play in that game. If we're playing anything else, we can't ever get the depth of connection. Everything in business works on relationships and emotions, right? The reason, unfortunately, we've got a very manipulative world that's manipulating people in advertising to buy things that aren't good for their soul or their health or their expansion and often their wealth is because people buy on emotions. But if we do it in love, if we do it in positive emotions, we can change that trajectory. So healing trauma is important in business because it's the thing that will hold you back from being fully expressed. It's the thing that will stop you being visible. It's the thing that won't let you align with the right strategies and models for you. It is the thing that will take you out of the game. It is the thing that will make it too tough. You know, as an entrepreneur, we've got to learn to navigate this journey. I'm doing Elevate You in November with you, and that's 10 weeks, right? But part of that is entrepreneurial skills, energetically, strategically, and emotionally, because we have to learn how to release these things so that we can go ahead. You know, in theory, it's all easy. In practice, we can get very overwhelmed. We can get very stressed. We can get very anxious. We can not do what's good for us. We can sabotage and resist our own good, right? So that process I take you through isn't just, it's brand and business strategy from all my experience of working with the top brands in the world. But at the same time, it's also the energetics and the emotional intelligence. Now, not only is emotional intelligence good for us to, one, understand what's going on, and two, be able to navigate it, but emotional intelligence is what connects us to our audience. Emotional intelligence is what makes you great at sales, right? So it's not just good for us, it's good for all of us on so many levels. And the reason I want to also say is, like, obviously working with high profile people, and I'm here to do this online, I'm here to do this with everyone, the mainstream, not just the people in my agency. But the reason I'm mentioning that is because a lot of celebrities we know, for example, when they get very wealthy and very famous, they have addictions and some of them commit suicide. And people wonder why. And I want to make this very clear, because if you've got unhealed trauma, yeah, when you get everything you thought would make you happy because you were chasing it from the outside, not doing what I talked about earlier that my clients do, they bloom where they are right now without needing anything on the outside to change, because I release the trauma and they learn to bloom where they are, a very short amount of time, maybe 2 sessions. But the thing is, if you haven't healed this, when you get everything you want, the money, the fame, the business, and you're still unhappy, that's when those people, the people who get very rich and famous, start using drugs and alcohol, and often suicidal, because they've got unhealed trauma and they thought those things would solve it. Nothing on the outside will heal us on the inside. Healing us on the inside changes the world. Heal people, hurt people don't always hurt people. Some of them change the fucking world. Some of us were meant to be really hurt. I've got really hurt over my life. I had patterns of narcissistic abuse. I've been bullied severely. I've been, you know, but it was all right. It was all right, because there's nothing I'd be able to teach you at the level I can right now if I hadn't been through some of the darkest moments of my life. I have. And it didn't make sense to me because I'm a very wholehearted person. But I needed it. I needed it. I needed it not to become it, not to be fighting it. I needed it to understand where all these fears come from. I learned how to be wealthy at times when I actually went towards poverty, because I'd been successful most of my life and I've lost it all a couple of times. I learned wealth in poverty, right? I learned true wealth, and then it's easy for me to make money again. I learned connection when I felt completely betrayed and devastated by the world. That's when I learned to connect. My connection to source never got bigger. My connection to my heart never opened up more. My connection to people never opened up more. At the time when I saw the shadows, at the time I saw what people could do to you. I've been abused in so many different ways in my life, right? So it's at that time that my heart opened, didn't close, didn't make me hate humanity, made me realize we've got to do much better on this fucking planet. And the way I believe we do it is we do the work we love. So we're happy and fulfilled. We make money from doing it, good money, money that supports us and our families, because happy and fulfilled people can't be manipulated, are unlikely to be abused because they're not vulnerable, and two, they make the world a better place. And I feel that's what we're here to do. So you being fulfilled in your work, you doing stuff on the planet that's good for all of us thinking in this we culture, not just for me, getting my own blinkered about, not caring about you, trying to exploit or manipulate you, believing that's some kind of personal gain. No, not that model. About coming humanity first, making soul-driven businesses, ones that matter. My clients are my friends. I have relationships and connections with people all over the world, sometimes some of them now for almost a decade, right? I'm proud to say that in my business, and I love my people, and they always come back into my world, but I never put that on them. I never manipulate them. I don't even try and sell them the next thing. It's like, some of them say to me, like, why didn't you tell me about this? But like, there's a beautiful relationship there. And I love that. And that means my business will always stand the test of time because I've built real connections, real relationships. I haven't sold you something and you've gone away feeling bad and manipulated. If you've come into my world, I'm not chasing you and hounding you and trying to convince you of anything. I know that you're a powerful human. I know that you can make your own decisions. I know that I offer opportunities and I know they're awesome. And if you want to jump in, you're always welcome. And if you want to go off for a little while and join someone else's party, it's all good with me. What's right for you, only you know. I don't try and tell people what's right for them. I help them find it for themselves, right? Healing trauma is the most important thing we'll ever do on the planet for ourselves and other people. Anything you can't manifest, there's trauma to be healed. I do trauma release sessions at a very reduced rate at the moment because this is the missing link, and I love seeing every single fucking person thrive. And it's just healing these traumas that it starts with. You open when you heal trauma, right? You get the creative ideas. You stop living in the past. You start connecting to your heart and your future. I bring people into their hearts. Most people don't want to go into their heart because they don't want to open Pandora's box of pain. But guess what? I've worked with people who are heavily traumatized, and I've navigated that journey with them. So they get to feel their feelings again, and they get to feel safe and strong enough to be able to deal with all of what's there. I teach you how to deal with all of what's there without it overwhelming you, without it controlling you, without it putting you in a very dark place. So contact me about that. Otherwise, join Elevate You. We're starting in November. It's 10 weeks, deep dive immersion. It's enormous value for what you get. It will set whatever stage of business you're at. It's the same process I take my clients through over and over again, and you get this for life. Like, you can use it over and over again, but it's the foundation of your business and brand and products and services, or it's the next level. It's your elevated version, whether you're starting or scaling. But it's very, very complete. It's not bits of the puzzle that you get from most programs. It's everything you'll need on that, bespoke to you, because I'll be tailoring it with you and channeling your soul purpose and your aligned strategies at the same time. Plus all the energetics, so emotional intelligent work, entrepreneurial skills, clearing your traumas, clearing your blocks. That experience is out of this world. I feel like every single person on the planet should go for it, because it will set you free to monetize who you are and what you love, and release what's in the way, right? So contact me about that. Melissa, I love you. Thank you for joining me. I can see other people who want, but I can't see who. So any questions, let me know. Lots of love. Fly, and I'll speak to you soon.